mean, bringing in Brandon Ingram in exchange for Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, a couple picks, 2026 Pacers first round pick, which ultimately I think is a pretty big win for the Raptors. People have been talking about fit, and we'll have to wait and see what that looks like on the floor. But Bobby Webster, best quote I've seen so far. Scotty likes to share the ball. Brandon likes to score the ball. That sounds like a good fit to me as far as that goes. But I've seen a lot of backlash, and that's where I want to start with this, because I kind of feel like we've come so far, or the public perception has come so far, that Brandon Ingram might be a little underrated at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I also I see the backlash too. And it's like, why are you, you're a team that's like hardly even in the play or like fighting for a play-in spot. And
right.
That's not going to change the season. Why are you going after a player like Brandon Ingram? And I'm also like, or my response to that is like, why would you not be going after a player as good as Brandon Ingram is when you have the opportunity to get him and he's excited to go there? Like, I pulled a list together. It was like the list of players that have averaged 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists in each of the last 5 seasons is like Brandon Ingram, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and LaMelo Ball, I think was the list of players. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander may have also been a part of that list. So perennial all-stars in Brandon Ingram, who, has proved that, when it comes to scoring and playmaking, when he's healthy, he's as good as anybody in the league at it. And, he's still young. He fits the timeline of everybody around him. And then you start to look at like the Raptors starting lineup, projected starting lineup that they put together. And with like IQ, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl, like that's a good team, man. That's a good 5, right? Like there's like something you can build off of and be excited for. And like, with all due respect to Toronto, like it's not like that's a place that free agents are, signing with left and right all the time. Right. So you have an opportunity to get a player as good as BI at the trade deadline. It shocked me that there was as much backlash as there was with that deal. Like I was really excited about that for the Raptors when I saw it. And like, I really do think like him and Scotty are going to be like really, really good together. RJ Barrett, like that 3, kind of like long wings who can defend multiple positions and they can all handle the ball. They can all pass. They can all shoot. Like that's a pretty unique, threesome they got going on in Toronto right now. So I'm curious to see when BI gets back on the court and how soon we'll be able to see those guys in action together. But I'm excited to see it when it happens.
And that's the other piece of it, right? Brandon Ingram has not played since December 7th with a low, high-grade ankle sprain, and he's had injury issues throughout his career. I think last year he came back a little earlier than he probably should have or would have if it was earlier in the season, but he came back to try to help the Pelicans in the play-in tournament, and they ended up winning in the play-in tournament and made a little noise, but not really. They ran into the Thunder in the first round and just had no answer for them. I think they got swept in the first round of the playoffs last year, but we've seen him do it. Think about that Suns series 2 years ago. Brandon Ingram, big-time performer on the playoff stage. And again, I guess I want to reiterate or add to that injury piece. Think about Alex McKechnie and the Raptors sports medicine staff, like what they did with Kawhi Leonard, the way they managed it years ago. This is something that they're known for. This is something that we know that this front office did their research about when they're bringing in a guy like that who you could describe as injury prone. I think that might be a little bit too big of a label, or maybe going too far. And then you have options, right? At the time of the deal, the team is 16-35. If Brandon Ingram's ankle is as bad as it has been, because he's out for two months so far because of it, there's no sense of urgency to rush him back in, because there's a very, very low chance they don't make this deal without having something long-term already planned, agreed to, in the works. So this is not about what's going to happen between February and April of this year, but more about beyond April, because this isn't a team that, I'm not saying they were going nowhere fast. Like, surprisingly, this team is, a solid home record, right? 12-16 at home as the time of recording. Most of the losses have come on the road. And if he's not playing, or they take their time getting him back in the lineup, they're still going to have a good chance to get a good lottery pick in this upcoming draft, which we talked about how deep this draft is. Now you kind of checked another box as far as scoring, and Scotty can kind of play more of that point forward, which we can see more with a pure scorer beside him once Brandon Ingram's back in the lineup. And now you can address different needs. You talked about what the team has, and like, now off the bench, Grady Dick, Ochai Agbaji, Jamal Shed, who we talked about, Jonathan Mobo has shown some flashes and things as well. So there's a clear picture and vision that is forming. And I also want to bring up, and it's something we talked about way back when the team hired Darko Rajakovic, the work that he did with Mikal Bridges in Phoenix, the work that he did with Desmond Bane in Memphis, Not to say that Brandon Ingram needs any help developing his offensive game, but if there's another level he can tap into, as and this guy, he's shooting 39% from three, high volume, small sample size, but still, there's concerns about the shooting thing. But if he and Emmanuel quickly are healthy in the lineup, those guys are probably going to take 13, 14 threes per game combined, and they're doing it at a high clip. So I'm on the optimistic side about it because, like you said, like it's better to just make this move and figure it out going forward than to go into free agency without a real plan and bidding against other teams once everybody has a shot at getting him.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, there are talented draft classes coming up, more talented draft classes than the previous one that we just had this past season. But there's no guarantee that you're hitting on those picks anyway. So, and then the other two players that you're giving up in the deal are players that every single year at the trade deadline, I mean, I say every single year, they just got Bruce Brown last year, but you know what I'm saying? Every time the deadline is coming around, it's oh, okay, these are going to be players that are available for contenders to go and get. And that's Bruce Brown and Kelly Olynyk. You're not really losing anything that is impactful to the long-term picture of this franchise. So, trading those two guys in a future first-round pick, there's no guarantee that the player that you would get with that future first-round pick is going to be better than Brandon Ingram, and that's a pretty tough ceiling to hit in the first place. Yep. So, again, I could not be more in on this deal for the Raptors. Maybe that's a controversial opinion. I don't know. But, to me, when you have the opportunity to get a player that's that good, that skilled, and he's going to fit with the players that you already have as your core building blocks for the future of the franchise, as long as you can get him to sign the dotted line on that extension, that's a great deal for Toronto.
Yeah, and one final point on that too, because we talked about it quickly. Barrett, Barnes, Ingram, that's your core four. Jakob Poeltl's the oldest of the group. He's 29 years old. Similar development timeline. Poeltl's played in the postseason before. Scotty's, all these guys have played in the playoffs before, right? Think about what RJ and Quick did in New York. Scotty got a taste of it his rookie season. So these are all guys with playoff experience. Same developmental timeline, definitely on different stages of it. But I say that to say, excluding Poeltl, because it's not replicable what he can do. But if the fit is murky between those four, they're all so good that, and I think Scotty Barnes too, he's untouchable. But between those three guys, right, between Quickly, Barrett, and Ingram, if one of them doesn't fit or doesn't work out, there's going to be a trade market for one of those guys. And I think that it would probably be, Ingram, Quickly, Barrett, the order in which it probably would get done, just given how well RJ's been playing since coming back home. But it's not like you're just stuck with this guy who nobody's going to want. Brandon Ingram, I know it was 5 years ago, but he was an all-star. He was the most improved player in the league, and he is a bucket getter. He go gets it. He is a guy who's going to have value on the market at any point in time during the life of his contract. He's 27 years old right now. I think he'll be 28 next season. So, not like this is a guy you got. It's not like getting Jimmy Butler at that stage of his career. Brandon Ingram's best years very well could be ahead of him. So I think ultimately, especially given the way this franchise is, they're retooling, having their own draft pick this upcoming year, you got to take some type of swing. And I think that there's a little bit of risk, but I do think the reward is really high in going out to get Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just said it too. It's one of those situations where, okay, you try it out and it's not really working out. There's going to be a market available for BI, for RJ. Like you said, Scotty's untouchable. That's the franchise player right now. No one's untouchable, as we learned last weekend.
Yeah,
but
true.
Scotty feels as much as an untouchable as you can be for the Raptors. But there are going to be plenty. It'd be a long list of teams that would want to take on a player like BI, a player like RJ Barrett, if it gets to that point. But I really think that those three are going to work out together, and I'm very, very interested to see what that offense looks like.
Yeah, for sure. And again, Brandon Ingram, saw his first picture of him today as we record this. Raptors out in Oklahoma City, saw him in Raptors gear. So reality is starting to set in. I think the biggest thing I'm worried about with fit is he going to get number 14 from Jacoby Walter or not? Or is he going to switch back to 13, which he wore at Kinston High School back then? So I don't know when the debut is going to be, but whenever it is, we will definitely talk about it here on Sound System.